Hello, today we are going to be glazing a plate. We are going to be using Duncan Concepts, and I'll tell you the colors as I use them, but we're going to be these Duncan Concept plates, and I'm going to do a simple prickly pear design. I already drew it out in pencil. I'm going to draw it out for you in a scrap piece of paper so that you can draw this out as well. And the idea I'm following is an idea I did in watercolors. I taught a watercolor class, and this is kind of the end result we're going for, but these are watercolors, and we're gonna be doing it in glazes today. So I'm going to try to do this basic design, but like I said, I'm gonna do it in glazes instead of watercolors. So after class today, I am going to clear dip it and fire it for you to see the final results, because there's a lot of differences that happen when it's fired in the kiln. The first step, like I said, is drawing it. I am making this, my plan is to give this away with cookies on it, and then they can pass it on to someone else. So it's a passing plate. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside just to show you how to draw that prickly pear. So what I like to start with when I draw this is the pot. So I'm going to go ahead and take my okay. So what I like to start with is the pot. So, and I'll go ahead and put this in frame so you can see this is what the look I'm going for here. So I'm going to start with the pot, which is going to be two almost 45-degree angles. And I would say the angle doesn't matter. You can be a little bit more angled, a little bit less angled than I am, but you do want them to be opposite, to be mirror images of each other. And then I'm going to do connect them with a little bit of a curvy line. And the same thing with the curve. You can do the curve. This curve is a little bit less. The one I drew today is a little bit more. The big thing is I want all three of these curves to be parallel with each other. So I'm going to try to make this one parallel with that one, the curve up here, and I'm going to go a little bit past. I want it to be a little bit of a lip. There we go. And then I'm going to make this line going out for the lip, and I'm going to try to keep it parallel to this line here. Then again, I'm going to draw one more curved line for the top of the pot this way. And then to draw, there's a couple things when you draw a prickly pear, and I want to put both of these in frame. A little bit of patterns, because they don't all have to be exactly the same. Every single one is going to end up being a little bit different, at least that I draw. So the big thing is you always want it to go from bigger to smaller to smaller to smaller. And I try not to go more than 2 branches on any one piece, with the exception of the first one. So these both have 3 coming off the first big one, and then the ones coming, and then after that, I do no more than 2 coming off. I did finish with hearts. You don't have to do these as hearts. I just thought it was cute. Okay, so the first, and then all of them are also going to follow the other prickly pear rule, is I want them to be ovals, and they can be a little bit wider on the top, a little bit flat on the top. You see this one's all flat on the top, and this one's all flat on the top. So as long as you follow that rule, that it goes bigger to smaller, and that they're oval-ish shapes that might be a little wider on top, it's going to end up looking like a prickly pear cactus here. All right, so I'm going to start in about the middle, and I'm going to do my first one. And that one's really big. So mine's a little bigger than my original. And that's fine. That's why everyone's unique, right? So now I made that one bigger, so I might not put one coming straight up. I'm gonna do the side arm here. One up here. I'm gonna do one more, and this one I'm gonna try to do more I'm gonna try to make it bigger because I don't want them to all be the same size. The other thing you want to avoid, and because you can have 2 limbs coming off of each one, but I try to avoid this. Let me show you. I try to avoid making 2 equal ones coming off one because then it looks like a mouse, and I don't want it to look like a mouse. So I try to make the 2 limbs different sizes if there's going to be 2 on one. So I'm going to go ahead and let me put this back just so you can see what I'm looking at here. I'll do 1 more here. And then I'll go ahead, I think I'm going to do 2 coming off of the center one. One more. And then I'm going to put 1 more here. And then I'm going to add some of my hearts. And then I'll do 1 more. Let me see, I'll do 1 here. And that just depends, and you can always add more of these as you start painting. And I do this, when I do this on my plate, I do it in pencil really lightly. So that's why I wanted to do it in permanent marker so you have a better view. The last thing I'm going to do is just the top of this circle, which this should be the opposite of this bottom line here. And then that's my percolate pear. So I got really close to the top of this paper because that first one was big. And you can see every single one is a little different, but they all follow those patterns of going from the biggest to the smaller branches and then ending with your little hearts. And again, you can add more hearts as we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna get my cactus that I pre-drew on the plate back in frame here. Now, as far as painting goes, the order of the painting doesn't matter a ton. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with my vase. The colors I'm gonna use for my vase are gonna be this bright purple, which I have a cup just to show you when I finally glaze it, it'll look like this. And this is to show you what it's gonna look like before it's fired. So before it's fired, it's gonna look this really, really light purple. When it's fired, it's gonna turn a very, very dark purple. So I wanna remember that. And I'm going to do that with, I'm gonna add some pink to the plate. This is called dark pink, and these are both Dunkin' paints here. And then I might use some really white as well. The thing you wanna look for underglazes is that they are all the same firing temperature. So these are all underglazes for bisqueware. Okay, and you can do it 3 coats. That's also this reference here to show you if I only do 1 coat, 2 coats, 3 coats. I'm gonna stay in the 1 to 2 coat range because my inspiration photo is a watercolor, so that'll somewhat mimic watercolors here. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna put all 3 of these colors because I like color blending. So I'm gonna do purple, and that's gonna be most of it. And then some pink. Ooh, I need to shake that up a little bit better. So again, that is bright purple, and this is bright pink, and then a little bit of really white. The really white will be overtaken a lot when it's fired. So I'm gonna put more white than I want my final piece to be. So I'm gonna do, and I want my light source to be coming from the right. So I'm gonna have darker on the cactus in the bottom. The left side's gonna be darker, and the right side's gonna be lighter. And that's what I'm gonna stay with here. I'm using this is just Artist Loft. It's a cheaper brush, 3/4 of an inch brush, and with a flat tip here, because this pot is a big size. And then when I'm brushing these, I'm gonna start from my left since the purple is the darkest color, and I'm gonna swoop down, trying to follow that angle this way. Let me see, and then I'm gonna do that again. I might go a line this way. So what glazes are is they are very, very light They are actually like almost pieces of glass. I would say they can be different things, but it's almost like I'm putting powdered glass on here that'll then melt and get a layer of glass when it's finally done in the kiln. So it is a lot more grainy than like even acrylic paints. It's also really rough on your brushes. So I try not to get it on this part of my brush, because they do kind of go through brushes. You can buy glaze brushes. I usually just use cheap brushes, but you can do either one. Some glaze brushes are really nice to use too. Okay, so now I'm gonna put I'm putting some bright pink, and I'm not cleaning my brush because I want to keep some purple on there. So I'm gonna do some bright pink in here, and I'm kind of blending the two. And then again, not cleaning my brush. So I'm trying to blend them. Not cleaning my brush, I'm gonna do the white over here. So I'm not cleaning my brush, so there's still some purple and pink on this brush. So because I don't want it to be pure white over there. And we'll see. So there, I've got a little bit of a texture on there. I'm gonna do a little bit of purple just along this rim. A little bit of shadowing in there. Okay. All right, so then the next thing I'm gonna do the same thing on this rim. I'm gonna use a different brush. I'm gonna switch to this Royal Clear choice number 4 with the flat edge. I kind of wish I had grabbed one that was a little wider than this. This is a little bit thin. Two things that are good about using a thicker brush is that it gets you more it's not just that it saves time, but it also saves it makes less little strokes. You can see this brush is littler, so it's a little harder to get rid of my brush strokes when I have a smaller brush. So I put this dark. Okay, and then I'm gonna run a little bit more using this brush. I wanna do one more layer of the dark purple over here. I want it to be dark. I wanna make sure it's darker on that left side. And I'm not gonna be able to see this the way I would with watercolors, but it will have that, I believe it will have that effect of making that a little darker over there. So even though I can't see it yet, when I fire it, I should be able to. Okay, so I've got that purple in there. And I'm trying to somewhat match the bottom, but I'm gonna run that purple all the way around here. I'm also gonna put a little bit of purple right along this outer edge here. And along the bottom here. I'm gonna use my white in here a little bit too. Okay, so now I'm gonna do some of this pink in here. And then some white along this side, but not cleaning my brush. The brush still has pink and a little purple on it too. And I'm gonna put a little bit of purple along this line. The other thing about, that's nice about glazing is all the pencil does not survive the firing temperature. So all of these pencil lines are gonna completely disappear in the kiln. So I don't have to worry about erasing them. But the opposite is also true. I mean, because those aren't gonna be there. So I also need to make sure if I want a pencil line showing, I need to outline it with paint because it won't show up at the end. Okay. So there's my plate. So that's something with these polka dots. I thought those were kind of fun. I wasn't sure if I wanted them or not. If I don't do anything to these, then it'll just be white when it comes out of the kiln. Okay, so, and I didn't use a lot of paint, which is good. I think I have a white spot right here. Let me get that, okay. Okay, and now I'm gonna do my cactus. Now the cactus, I'm gonna use the same brushes. I need to kind of clean those off a little bit. So, don't mind my reach here. I'm gonna use this bright Tide Pool, which is almost like a really dark teal color. I'm gonna use my light jade, which is like a very, very bright green color, and my light straw, so my yellow color. So I'm gonna use these three colors: Tide Pool, light jade, and light straw. And so I'm gonna follow the pattern, and looking at my example here, I'm gonna try to follow the pattern of going darker on the left side, middle is mostly green, and then a little highlight of yellow on the right side. So I do want that lightest part to match the pot to have consistency there. So my lightest part in the pot is on the right, so my lightest part of all the cactuses is gonna be on the right, all of the cactus arms here. And a little goes a really, really long way with glazes, so I put very, very little. They're also somewhat expensive, so I don't want to use more than I have to. I don't think I'm going to use a little bit of white, but I might change my mind, and I'll let you know how it's going here. I'm going to use, I think I'll mostly use this brush. Or I might use, I'm going to use a lot of, I think I'll use a lot of this one. Which I could use one that's thicker than this. So this is a small round brush. I like round brushes since this is really curvy. I'm also going to go heavy. I'm also going to do a lot of the bright Tide Pool because I like that color a lot. But I am going to start with the green in the middle. You don't necessarily have to start that way, but I'm going to start with that green in the middle. Let me get that out of frame. And I'm trying to follow somewhat the curves of the sides of the cactus when I do this. I'm going to do a little bit in all of them of this. Okay, so, and I want to mix, I'm going to mix the bright tide pool with the green and have some of that because there's a big difference between those two. So I want a little blended area. So this is darker. So this is going on, I'm not going to do that almost halfway through because I really like the way those look. So this is a mix of the bright tide pool and the light jade. I'm going to go almost halfway with that. And then I'm going to keep my brush dirty as I do the bright tide pool all the way on the right and kind of try to blend those just a little bit. There we go. Do a little bit. I want a little. The other thing that's different with these is, okay, so I'm doing a little bit of that light jade right at the top of the bright tide pool, but that when it fires, that darker color that I just put a lighter color on top of, it will show through a lot. So I do have to remember that. So we'll see how this blend looks when it gets fired. I didn't blend that as much. That one might come out a little darker than I had wanted. And I'm still gonna put the yellow on, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna do that last. I needed a little bit more green. So I'm just trying to blend it. I also don't love the look of this light jade, the green I'm using a lot. So a lot of it, I have at least a little bit of that darker green in there as I paint these here. And I'm trying to keep them somewhat consistent. The ones over here can have a little bit more of the light color on them because they're closer to my light source, which is over here somewhere on the right. And you can do it the opposite. You can have the light source on the other side. The only thing is you just want to be consistent with whichever side you do. So like the pot is lighter on this side and all the limbs are also. And this one can have a little more dark over here. A little shadow on these kind of. So I haven't used any yellow, so I'm gonna put in some yellow now. And I did not clean my brush. I left, so there's gonna be a green in, actually I'm gonna mix a little green and yellow on my plate too. Because I want very few, if I put too much pure yellow, it's gonna look like it's dying. So I want very little actual pure yellow showing in my, I'm rinsing my brush just because what happens with glazes, it's almost like a thick amount of glaze on here, kind of patted on there. So I got a little bit of that yellow green on there. I've seen people do these in all different colors. I've seen people do these with like blue and purple, so don't feel like you're restricted that they have to be green. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of highlights and yellow. So very, very little like pure yellow on any of those. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is my flowers, and I'm gonna do that with the pink that I already used on here, that bright pink. I don't like having like, sometimes it depends on how it's done, but I try to actually not use a ton of colors, especially for something like this where I'm not looking for a completely realistic look here. So I try to, like I use pink down here, I'm gonna use the same pink up here. I think that ends up looking more consistent, and I think it ends up looking better that way. All right, so a couple little, so the way I do these is I start with a glob on the top and I kind of pull it down for the V at the bottom. Try that again. Okay, there's that. And then I need to fill this in the bottom, I'm gonna actually mix, I'm gonna do mostly purple. I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of the bright Tide Pool, so it's a little bit darker. And it is almost like a little bit of a brown effect here, but I'll rinse my brush off a little bit. Because that's like the inside or like the dirt of the pot. And I'm being careful where I lean my hand. I do like to lean my hand against something. I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to switch back to this flat, the Royal Clear Choice number 4. Okay, there's that. Smooth, and then I want to smooth out some of my lines on the actual cactus. Actually, I think they're okay. Maybe a couple more right in here. And this is where I'm talking about. This pencil line is going to be gone, so I want to make sure I have a nice smooth line here. All right, so I think that's pretty good. And then I'm actually going to try one thing I'm going to experiment with today. I'm going to try my the spikes of the cactus. I'm going to try doing them in purple, and that's might be a mistake, but I like to try it out and see what it looks like. So the thing with the thorns is I want them always in clusters of 3, and I'm always gonna start from the middle and pull outwards. But it's always gonna be clusters of 3, always starting from the starting point and pulling straight outward. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They can be, and I'm trying to make them pretty consistent size-wise, but not necessarily direction-wise. I also like I did experiment with them on the hearts and not on the hearts. I like them on the hearts, so I'm going to keep that too. And then, oops, I knocked the camera a little bit. And so that's what I'm going to go for here. I am switching brushes again. This is a really thin one. This is a Royal brand, and it is number 1. So actually, I'm going to mix the purple with the bright Tide Pool, but I'm going to have mostly that purple. I'm going to mix those together. I'm going to use the back of my brush to mix those, because I want it to be really dark, but I didn't really want to include black today. And we'll see. I did dip this in water just to, I'm gonna put more purple in there. It's too close. When I held that up to there, it's too close to the same color. Okay, there we go. Okay, so again, and I'm going to go somewhat quickly for these. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's the way I'm going through all of these. I think I'm going to be really happy with that purple. Oops. These are a lot thicker than the ones in the original drawing because the original ones I use a thin tip permanent marker. So I am going to do less than that one because they are thicker and a little bit bigger. And you want to make sure you have some inside and then some on the outside coming off of the cactus. think I'm happy with that number of thorns. I'm just looking from a little bit of a distance to decide. I need one, whoops, right here. Just deciding where I think one needs to be here. And I'm happy with that. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right on top of my pencils to go over the little plate instructions here. I can really do those in any color, and sometimes what I like to do when I have words on something is to highlight certain words and the color that's gonna stand out the most. So this background is obviously white, so the darker colors are gonna stand out more from the backgrounds. So maybe, you know, the give it or the fill it, the fill and give, the words fill and give. But I think actually I'm gonna stick with just doing it all one color, and I think I'm gonna stick with the color of the thorns, is what I'm gonna do for all of those. You could do different colors, but I think I want it less busy than that. Especially when I have so many colors in here with this cactus. And I'm sticking with that thin one, really thin. I will say I would not use really nice, if you're going to invest in good brushes for this purpose, I would go to a ceramic supply and get ceramic brushes. I would not use nice acrylic brushes because it's just the glaze does end up tearing them up. Whereas the ceramic brushes seem to hold up with the glaze a little bit better. And then just like any paint, washing it out really well afterwards helps. And then with the glaze, I'm trying to leave a layer on. So I'm not pushing down very hard at all with my brush. I'm trying to leave a really, like a layer of glaze on the plate, a layer of that powdered glass almost on the plate. So here's an example right here. Because it was really close, I did not go over the pencil line. I went a little bit, just so I didn't want to touch that thorn. It could have, it would have been fine if it did, but I didn't want to. So I went a little bit inside, and I just tapped my finger by accident right there. So, and that's fine. And then that pencil, like I said, that pencil mark is just gonna go away when I fire it. So I'm not gonna worry about going back with an eraser. Nope, that E is a little bit messed up. Okay, so then the last, I was going in and editing just a little bit. It is hard to do words. I don't love it, but I am gonna go in, try to smooth some of them out a little bit, make them a little more even if I can. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is my circles are on the rim, and I'm gonna do all of these with 2 colors mixing together, at least 2. I'm gonna be switching between brushes depending on the size. I already have my small brush ready, so I'm gonna do some of the smaller circles first. And here's where I definitely don't want to introduce new colors. I'm gonna do a little bit bigger, the 1 step up circle brush for a few more here. And I'm just trying to evenly space out the colors and the sizes as I go. And that is it. I have a couple more. I might add a few more just on my own. And those could have been skipped. You don't have to do those. I just thought they were fun. I thought the rim looked sad, all plain. And that is it. I'm done. Thanks for watching. Remember to follow my channel for updated videos.